Now, what happened is that shortly after that, that's exactly what happened. Assad used chemical weapons, and that as a result, Obama was, by his own words, obligated to do something about it, but didn't. He ducked his own red line. And it was at that moment that Vladimir Putin, who I remember, and I'm sure you do as well, suddenly wrote extraordinarily an op-ed piece in the New York Times, of all places. And then he moved in to support Assad and effectively took control as Assad's main supporter in Syria. And many people think that that was the catalyst for a lot of the problems that then followed. Is that an accurate assessment of what happened, do you think?
Not really, although I did witness some of that close up, even at the G20 in St. Petersburg around the time of these events. What this starts, and it's really fascinating to go back, it starts in 1996 with Netanyahu, who wrote a book called Fighting Terrorism. And the thesis of the book is quite straightforward and very dangerous. He says, you know, there's Hamas, there's Hezbollah, they oppose Israel. It's not good for us to fight them directly. That won't work. What we need to do is topple the governments that back them. So what we need is regime change throughout the Middle East. And he actually gave a long list of 7 countries that included Syria, Libya, Iraq, Iran, Somalia, Sudan, and Lebanon. And systematically, the United States has done Netanyahu's bidding for almost 30 years now, going to war with every one of them, except for the big one that Netanyahu so much longs for, which is the war directly between the United States and Iran. But the U.S. went to war with Syria in 2011. Secretly, of course. This was what's called Operation Timber Sycamore. It was Obama assigning the CIA to overthrow Assad. Overtly, the United States overthrew Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. It's interesting, Piers, to go back to 2002. This is after 9/11, of course, to watch Netanyahu as being the lead cheerleader for the U.S. to overthrow Saddam Hussein. Now we have a treasure trove of documents coming out that this was really a war on Israel's behalf. Everything about the weapons of mass destruction was phony, known to be phony inside the U.S. government, but this was the argument that was given, and Netanyahu was there in Washington telling him it'll be just great if you take out Saddam Hussein. It's going to topple all the rest of the governments. The idea was, incidentally, that Saddam would be toppled and then the U.S. military would go right into Syria right away. But then an insurgency trapped the United States inside Iraq so that the Syrian war was actually delayed 8 years. But what we're watching is this crazy Netanyahu idea of regional war so that Israel can have its greater Israel, as they call it. In other words, everything is to stop the Palestinian cause, and the U.S. keeps being involved in these wars. And there was Jake Sullivan again today explaining, yeah, terrorists, who cares about terrorists? We're toppling Assad. And this is, again, for the Israel lobby, basically.
But look, you're blaming Israel for all of it, and fine, that's your view. Many people would say, no, it's been...
I'm blaming Netanyahu in particular.
Right, and that's very clear. But America, they would say, look, we've been actively engaged in a lot of regime change and attempted regime change in that region for a specific reason. These countries are being run by malevolent dictators who have a hatred of the United States, and it's in our self-interest, never mind anybody else's. I mean, could the two things be true at the same time? Yes, it suits Netanyahu and his bigger view of the region. I'm sure that's true. But it could also be absolutely in their belief, in America's interests to do this. I mean, look, I don't agree with them, but could it be that is a genuine belief on their part?
I agree with you that it's absurd because what has it gotten us? $7 trillion of war spending, massive debts, and chaos throughout the Middle East, from Libya, Syria, Iraq, Lebanon. It's complete bloodbath for more than 25 years now. And so it doesn't accomplish anything. I think it's extremely naive, and I think it's extremely wrong-headed. And I blame Netanyahu for it. He spelled it out. It's his strategy. We've tried it. We've done what he said. We're doing it today again in Syria. It's a disaster. It's time to say, run your own country, we'll run our country. That's my view.
In 2018, we both wrote pieces about the situation in Syria then. I wrote mine for the Daily Mail. This is after a suspected chemical weapons attack in Douma in Syria, left dozens killed, including many young children. I said that the use of chemical weapons by Assad was on Obama's conscience, and it would ultimately embolden only one man, Vladimir Putin. You said on your website at the same time, the US and its allies should face reality and accept the persistence of Assad's regime, despicable as it may be.
Yeah, one thing, by the way, Piers, and honestly, you don't know and I don't know, there's a very significant argument among very knowledgeable people that the chemical weapons was a false flag. And if you know American foreign policy, false flags are the essence of CIA.
But that hasn't been proven, as you know. I mean, that's just a theory.
No, it absolutely not proven. Not proven either way.